Today we are going to be talking about the Power Rangers role-playing game, and I know that everybody is on pins and needles waiting to see the book. If you happen to be at Gen Con, we did have an iPad that had the book that people could scroll through, but today I actually can show off that I have a physical pre-production copy right here in my hands. And these books are on their way. As I'm sure you've heard in the news, there is a global shipping crisis. We are waiting for these just as much as you are, and they are on their way. So they're coming, they're here, they're gorgeous, and I have a special sneak preview of something else. If you all stick with me for this hour, I'm going to be showing off something really, really cool. So the main questions that we've had so far, because obviously the book isn't out on shelves yet, is how do I make a character? What is Essence 20, this new system that you have at Renegade Game Studios? How is it different from anything else I've ever played? And what can I do? And everybody's so excited because they want to be able to start thinking about what kind of character they want to make. And I'm here today to talk about that. If you caught a little bit of Renegade Con a couple months ago, we did talk about character creation in the Essence 20 system, and we actually made a G.I. Joe character on screen, which was super cool. And if you want to go and watch that video to really see the nitty-gritty, in-depth character creation, you can go ahead and watch that on Play Renegade's YouTube, and you can basically walk through making a character. Now, that one is specifically for G.I. Joe, and while character creation is nearly identical, obviously there's some flavor options and differences between the brands, that will give you a really nice overview of how easy it is to create a character, what your basic choices are going to be, and how characters are put together. So let's just start and go for Power Rangers specific character creation. How do I make my character? Well, the first thing that I always tell people is think about what your character concept is. What kind of character do you want to be? What is your backstory? What are you thinking of? Like, before you're called to the power, who are you? And that's going to give you a really good basis of how you're going to begin to select what we call your origin. Now, in Power Rangers role-playing game, you have your origin determined by what your attitude is. And your origin is basically, who were you before you were called up to be part of this, superhero team of Power Rangers? Who were you as a person? And so that origin is going to determine your starting basic scores. And in Essence 20, those scores are called essences, and they are represented by the 4 S's. See what we did there? And those S's are strength, your speed, your smarts, and your social. And all of the things that you do in the game, all of the skill tests that you make, any actions that you want to do, are all going to fall under one of those 4 categories. And sometimes they can actually fall under different categories, and you can convince your game master that maybe something that was a skill test that should have been under smarts, well, maybe you have a social way of working that out, and you can always use a skill that you have in social to try and, get around that situation, get around that skill test, and roll for that instead. And that's what makes this system really flexible. But on the whole, you have those 4 essence scores, and those are going to determine all of the types of skills that you have. And so when you choose your origin, what your attitude is, who you were as a person before you joined up, that is going to determine what your basic starting essence score distribution is going to be. And that's basically how many points in each of those 4 S's you're going to have. And then from those 4 points, you get to choose your skills that relate to them. It's also going to tell you basically what your starting health is. So it's how many times can you get hit before you go down and you're out of the combat, if you're even in combat at all. And then it's also going to give you some bonus skills that are specifically tied to your origin that you choose. And lastly, it's going to give you an origin benefit. And your origin benefit is something that's specifically tied to your origin, and it's kind of like a special, I'm not going to call it a perk per se, but it works a lot like our perks, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But it works like our perks here. So your origin benefit, for example, if you are an athlete, your origin benefit is going to be that you are always training, right? So you're always able to do things, even if you don't really have that skill, you'll always still be able to roll for it, and add your little D2 to it, even if you're not actually trained, because you're an athlete, you're always training, and that's in all things physical. And so every origin is going to have that. So I'm going to refer to our cool book here and go to our origins chapter just to go through, for everybody watching, you're going to get a little sneak peek as to all of the starting origins that we have in the core rule book. Now, I'm going to say starting origins, and I'm not going to spoil things here too much. I may spoil a little bit, but these are all what's available to you just starting out when you buy this core rule book. But we have so many cool books in the work supplements, new adventure campaigns that are going to have new team-oriented origins and roles and influences that are going to be added in. So you'll have a lot more choices in the future. But I want to say that with this core book, you have a really good basic selection and can pretty much make any type of character that you want to. But let's start with what we have here. So we have our starting origins that you can choose from are athletic, I already talked about that one a little bit, brainy, comedic, curious, cynical, kind, oddball, popular, I should be showing the pages, tragic, I skipped one, rebellious, and tragic. And each of these will give you your starting health, like I said, what your essence score increase option me to get a new skill, and I have a choice which strength-based skill I would want to take or which speed-based skill I would want to take. And so that's your option of your origins that reflects who you were before you were a ranger. Then what you're going to do is you're going to choose who you are when you are a ranger, and that is called your role. Now, in the Power Rangers role-playing book, I wish I could show you this without covering my whole face up. You have your roles based on the Ranger spectrum. And in the core rule book, you have your choice of the Black Ranger, Blue Ranger, Green Ranger, Pink Ranger, Red Ranger, or Yellow Ranger to start with. And yes, white is an option for later in this book, but for later. And those roles are going to determine for you what your armor color is, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. It's going to give you some more starting skills, and it's going to give you role perks. Now, we talked about perks a little bit when I was talking about what your origin benefit is, and that it's not really a perk, but it's sort of like perks. Perks are things that you can do during the game. We have perks and we have powers. And there are perks that are tied to your role. So if you choose to be a Pink Ranger, which of course, look at me, I'm going to choose Pink Ranger, you're going to get special Pink Ranger perks for that. But that does not mean that you don't get to choose from what we call general perks. And we have 10 pages of general perks and powers that you can customize your character with. And so yes, you're going to get your ranger color determined by your role. You're going to get some perks with that are automatic. But later on, you customize those perks with whatever you want from your general perks list. And so your roles are going to determine some of your starting skills, like additional bonus skills that you're going to get. And they are also connected to your armor color, which allows you general weapons choices. These are not necessarily tied to the exact weapons that you would have seen a ranger use in one of the seasons on the television show. They are influenced by that a little bit, but you have a wide selection of types of weapons based on that role that you choose, not something very specific that's connected to a team. Because in the Power Rangers role-playing game, we are encouraging you to make your own ranger. Now, if you want to make a ranger that is exactly like one you've seen on TV, you can absolutely do that. There are enough choices in this book that you can basically make anything that you want to, but the whole point is that now you're the ranger. Now you get to decide what you want to be. So we really do encourage you to do that as well, and this gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to do that. Finally, I'm going to flip through some of these pages too, because it's silly for me to not show it off since I have it. Uh-oh, I'm just very short. Let's see if we can show off some of this cool stuff. Oh, we don't want to see this chart. We want to see cool pictures. So for example, we're in the Black Ranger page, and it talks about what your perks are going to be, and it talks about what your extra attack is going to be, what your special grip power is, and a lot of Black Ranger flavor for role-playing and mechanics. And this will all give you, each role will give you a basic rundown of how your character in that role works, but also what types of things you can do to customize your character. There's the Blue Ranger page. And the role, which I forgot to talk about, also gives you your leveling progression, and so how you level up as a character, how you grow and change as a character, and what you get each time you do level up. And I see in the comments, Dean, you said, so all that matters is the skill tree, the colors don't matter. The colors do matter because the colors will determine what your starting, personal power capacity is. That's your ability to use your powers. It talks about where your increases in those 4 essences are focused and begin. There is a gradual increase across all roles that are relatively even, but they do start in certain areas. So, for example, let me flip to the next section. When we're talking about a Green Ranger, at level 1, you're going to start with certain role perks that are specific to Green Ranger, not anything else. And then you can add general perks to that are different, but you can never select green role perks for a different color unless you do something special later on that actually lets you switch your color, which we see often in Power Rangers. And so it also starts you at, like, for example, for Green Ranger, you start at a +2 strength essence increase and a +1 speed essence increase at level 1 for Green Ranger, whereas maybe for Blue Ranger, I believe it's you get a +1 speed and a +2 smarts. So your starting levels are different, and then you level up from there. And yeah, so that's your roles. And then we go to your influences. Now, influences are things that have happened to you throughout your life that have influenced you. It could be things that you grew up with, something that is happening in your life right now, even as a ranger, things that have happened to you in gameplay. There are options to add influences. And so your influences are things like, am I an artisan? Do I love to bake? For example, maybe I would choose artisan as an influence on my life. And that will give me not only a lot of good role-playing opportunities, but it does give me an influence perk that is tied only to that influence. It will give me some background bonds that will allow me to play my character more authentically. And what the coolest thing about influences is that you can add more than one. And with those perks, if you add more than one, you also get hang-ups. Now, hang-ups I love. I love it when I have an imperfect character. And so to balance out all of these perks that you might be taking when you take multiple influences, you also get a quirky little thing that might happen during gameplay that, is, I won't say detrimental to the scenario that you're playing, but it will come into play and you will have to overcome it. And that is for your game master to decide when and where that happens. And so our influences that we're starting off with are artisan, a caretaker. I want to show off some of this really cool art. We have community helper. So if you are, like bulk and full and you've volunteered for the junior police force or something like that, you're community helper. This is all backwards. And we have small town roots. So maybe you grew up on a farm and you have a really strong work ethic from getting up at 5 a.m. every day or 4 a.m. every day and milking cows. A martial artist, a nomad. So maybe you're an army brat, or your parents are in radio, or you've had to move around all over the world or all over the country. That gives you different cultural special perks that add to your character. And you can combine these. Oh, and not from around here. They can be not from around here, meaning Angel Grove. Not from around here, meaning Earth. A student, and survivor. And so these all combine together to really make unique characters. I'm reading some comments before I move on too quickly. I want to make sure to address everything that everyone's asking. So the colors definitely matter. I think I adjust that a little bit. So the skill trees are attached to your ranger spectrum, which is attached to your roles. So every skill tree is different. Your leveling progresses pretty evenly, but they all start at different essence scores as your main thing that you do. And your skill trees also give you access to perks that other roles cannot give you access to. It doesn't mean that you can't add different perks that are from the general perk list, but if it's something super special that only the Red Ranger can do, only the Red Ranger can do it. And so you would want to take the Red Ranger if that's the perk that you specifically want to do. It doesn't mean that you can't do other really cool stuff that maybe will be cool for your character concept if you don't choose Red Ranger and you really want to be, a Yellow Ranger. But those are specific to those. Okay, boop, boop, boop. Can't have a Green Ranger tech or Blue Loner, etc. Oh, no, you definitely can, Dean. So just because the Blue Ranger starts off at a higher smarts than a Green Ranger does not mean that once you start leveling, your smarts is not going to go up. But even with, one level of smarts essence lower as a Blue Ranger, as a Green Ranger, you can still take technology as a skill. So I'm actually going to go. It's so handy having this thing right in front of me, I will say. I'm going to go to our character sheet. We have an example character sheet in the back, an empty one. And so when you take a look at this character sheet, I really hope everybody can see this well. Boop, boop. Here we go. Okay, so if you look under smarts, you will see all of the different smarts skills that are there. And right there at the bottom is technology. So if you have your Green Ranger build and you have a 3 in smarts, let's say you've gotten your smarts to 3 essence, it means that you can choose 3 different smart skills that you can specialize in, that you can take, that you can do, or you can put those 3 ranks into, it's hard because my finger's going backwards. You can take your 3 ranks and move up in your skill die, so 1, 2, 3, or you can take a skill and take that skill and say 1, 2, and then specialize in something under that skill as your 3rd, or any combination of those. And that's a little further on into character creation as far as how you spend these essence points. But if you wanted to be a Green Ranger that is super knowledgeable in computers and specializes in it, you could definitely take, 2 ranks of technology and then specialize, you would write right here, computers specifically. And so anytime you would want to hack into something or use your computer skill, you would get to roll your highest ranked die plus all of the dice under it and take the best result. And that's because you've specialized in computers. So you can definitely build out a Green Ranger that is tech-based. It just means that you won't have that extra little bump at the beginning of starting with that extra smart to maybe take one more rank higher. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. I hope that explained it a little bit. Where I'm going to get into how you spend your skill points in just a little bit. But that's the basics of how you do it. Okay, how do the Zords work? Okay, so with your Zords basic choices, and when I say basic, I mean your starting choices, are also connected to your rolls. And so your Zord choices are going to be, and I'm going to show you also. Hopefully this you can all see. Can you all see? Can somebody confirm that you can see what I'm showing you on the screen a little bit? That way I know if it's even worth it to hold this up or not. Nobody in the comments? No? Okay. I'm going to do it anyway. So, your Zord is fully customizable. So what you get to do is you start with a baseline of what your Zord has, and then, okay, thank you, Wayne, and then you get to add your spectrum-based Zord feature. So if I'm a Black Ranger, I know that my Zord is going to have the Black Ranger Zord feature, which is a hardened chassis. It doesn't mean it has to look any specific way. It just knows that, I just know that Black Ranger Zords get a hardened chassis. And that's just a basic starting point. And then I also get to choose a team influence. Now, in the core rule book, we focused on what we call the Zordon years and all of the teams within those years. We have those basic starting points. It doesn't mean that your Zords need to look like those Zords, but that is just our basic starting point for how you start to create your Zord. As we put out new supplemental material, we are going to be adding choices, and like I said, even for your character creation, for your origins, and your role perks, and your influences, and everything else from other teams. So those are coming, but this is what you get to choose from for now, which gives you your automatic Zord features. And so your choices from there is you can choose from a Battleborg Dinozord, your Mega Vehicle Zords, Turbo Zords, Zeo Zords, or any unique circumstance, and those give you other types of features that you then combine. Whoop, try to make it not blurry. There we go. So, for example, I'm just going to take the top one because it's easy for me to read backwards on the screen that way. So if I was doing, I'm a Black Ranger, and so I know my Zord is going to have a hardened chassis, and then I am going to choose, Battleborg as my basic Zord feature. I know that I'm also going to get an extra attack with my Zord, and it's going to be a Martial Zord. And so then I get to go to where those features are and then choose from that selection. So Zords level up too, so they have their own skill tree of sorts. And so it talks about leveling up. But then I get to choose from all of these Zord features. So, backwards. So you get to read through all of the different features you can choose from your Zord to make it super, super custom. Yes, if you want to make a platypus Zord, Dean, go ahead. I want to see a picture of it, actually. I can't wait to see all of this fan art that's going to come in for everybody's customized Zords. And then some Zords are combiner Zords too, which will allow them to combine together like a Megazord. And so we do give some example for people who want to just choose an existing Zord. We do give example builds of Zords that you can just take that are straight from Power Rangers existing Zords. But again, we do really encourage, I love this artwork so much. I really do encourage everybody to make your own Zord because, again, I want to see all of the platypus Zords out into the world. So that's the basics of how Zords work. And so you can see a bunch of different types of builds from all of the different teams from the Zord Runners. And then, again, when we have our supplements come out, we will be introducing new example builds. Again, you can use them as a reference, you can use them straight out of the book, or you can just throw that all out and go through the Zord creation rules and just make your own. And so that's how customizing Zords works. It's pretty easy. You're basically taking your team influence. I hate using the word influence because that's part of character creation, but the team archetype Zord, I guess is the best word to say, and your role, and you get certain features from both, and then you add to it and you make your own thing. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, we love the art. I love how everything turned out in this book. I'm really excited about it. Okay. I want to scroll up through some comments so I don't miss anything. Oh, Brian. I love everybody's comments. Okay. Okay, does the book cover allies such as Phantom Ranger? We do have a section that talks about what's going on right now, what's going on in Angel Grove, and we have an extensive chapter on locations and various NPCs that you can find around, but we do not have just yet a lot of story NPCs in here that are not threats. That are talking about your allies, but that does not mean that that's not coming, wink wink, and coming very soon. So we do want you to play your own stories and not necessarily play through the same scenarios that you have seen on TV or in the comic books, but that does not mean that those people don't exist out there in the world and that you can't meet them perhaps in some adventure that you might pick up and play through. I don't want to spoil anything for any players, but the GMs out there are going to have a lot of really cool material to use to guide their players through brand new adventures of all sorts, with stories that and tests and skills and combats that they are not going to be able to anticipate. So yes, those are all going to be out there. I just don't want to spoil anything for you all. Okay. Yes, as far as kit bashing and conversion, that's what this is meant for. We want you to make your own thing, and we're giving you the tools so that you can do it. I want to see everybody's builds so badly. It's going to be a lot of fun. Is it possible to create a lone wolf ranger? Yes, actually it is. You can make whatever it is that you want to make, and the game is absolutely able to be played by one game master running through scenarios for one person. If you want to play that way, you can also have a player at the table that is playing a lone wolf archetype character that is not part of the team. We do encourage teamwork. Role-playing games are cooperative games, and I'm sure everybody's heard the mantra, do not split the party. There's a reason for that, but that doesn't mean you can't do it every once in a while, and you can't build that into your story and your background and your full campaign. So I definitely think that that's something that's interesting to play with, and if that's how you like to play, that's how you should play. That's the beauty of role-playing games. You can be whoever you want to be at the table. Okay. Are other colors in the works? Sorry I got here late. To not spoil, I think we've already kind of talked about this a little bit. In the core rule book, we have the Black Ranger, Blue Ranger, Pink Ranger, Red Ranger, and Yellow Ranger. And then, did I skip green? And Green Ranger. Sorry, Green Ranger. Always getting skipped over and forgotten about. Yeah, and the Green Ranger. And then we do have the Advanced Spectrum role of White Ranger in the core rule book. Coming soon. It's hard to say coming soon when this book isn't on shelves yet, but it is on its way. We will be adding other Ranger colors along with all of those other character creation options. That's just part of it. So yes, I'm not going to tell you what's coming when, because that's too much of a spoiler, but yes, we fully are planning on having silver and gold and more coming your way for Advanced Spectrum role options. Okay. Lots of questions today, so I'm going to scroll back up to make sure I'm not missing any. Who are the villains in this? Okay, so there are unlimited villains available in role-playing games. Because this is not, like the minis game or a card game or any other type of predetermined, there are no predetermined villains that you're going to come across. It's all coming out of either the adventure scenario or your game master's mind. So you could come across literally anyone. Now, I'm not going to tell you who the main villains are in the starter adventure that comes in the book, because if I tell you that, it's going to ruin the story for you. What I will tell you is that the starter adventure takes place in Angel Grove, because that's where we're focusing right now. And so, yes, maybe Rita is behind what's going on. That I think that's a pretty safe assumption for at least any of the main Angel Grove adventures that will be coming out, is that Rita and Zed are, doing their thing. But that does not mean that you're going to actually come across them specifically, but maybe a few or several of their monsters. And that will change as new adventures come out. We're going to have not only published books with full adventure campaigns coming your way, but also digital one-shot adventure modules that you can just play one time in like one session. Those will be coming out not only for digital download, but also on Roll20. And you'll have a lot of content to play as your game master wants to use them. And then when they are ready to start making up their own adventures and their own monsters, there are all of the rules of how to do that and guidelines of how they can use different monsters as different templates to make up their own stuff, or throwing in a variety of threats that we've already provided. I'm going to flip through a couple. I really don't want to spoil, but so let's see who's. So we have stat blocks with art of a bunch of different art. I'm only going to show a couple. Okay, these are pretty obvious that these are going to be in there, but we've got various types of putties, stat blocks for game masters to throw your way. And, these are adventure specific. I'm not going to show those. Let's show off Snizzard because he's cool. Look at this art. Yeah. So cool. So we have a bunch of different threats that are in the core rule book. More threats will be coming with every single book that we put out. So there will be a variety. We couldn't put them all in the core rule book because we would have a 3,000 page book of just threats. But we do plan on coming out with a compendium, a bestiary of sorts of monsters as well, and other threats. So hopefully that answered a lot of questions on that one. Ooh. Hey Rick, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks too. Thank you for coming and watching me talk. Is there an estimated time for these to be in stores? Yes, right now we are saying January, and we're confidently saying January. I've talked about this a little bit, and I really don't want to harp on it too much because I think it's what everybody in this industry and other industries are trying to put into the back of their brains as we're progressing forward and making cool stuff for you, is that right now there is a manufacturing and shipping global crisis, and things are taking a lot longer. There are material shortages, and there are just issues getting actual ships and containers onto the water and here. And then once they get here, just having enough workforce to unload it all and get it into our warehouses to get it to you. This is on its way. So we already know that that hurdle has been crossed. So it is on the way here. It's just a matter of it, docking, getting unloaded. We had another book that was literally sitting in a dock for a couple of months that we thought was going to be unloaded, but and now that is in our warehouse and ready to ship in just about a week or so. And so we know that things have slowed down, but we have built in enough time here to say we confidently think it's going to be January that we're actually going to get them. And if you stay tuned to either this Facebook page or the Play Renegade Twitter, we will be updating as much as we possibly can. We want the information to be available to you, and we are very excited about having you all have it in your hands and being able to play it. Okay. You can pre-order on the web store right now if you want to, if you haven't already. And then the moment it is available, it will show up on your doorstep. If you also want to pre-order for Roll20, it will be unlocked the day we have them as well. And then you can play right there on your computer that very same day. So we can create our own story and own villains. Yes, you can. You can do whatever you want at your table. And so if you want to have your group, if you're the game master and you want to have your group of Power Rangers fighting a villain that you've made up and you've devised, you can be like Finster and make your own monster and throw it at them. Yes, you can do that. We have different guidelines that you can follow so that you're making sure that you're not going to throw something too easy or too difficult to your players. But yes, we recommend that you play through maybe a couple of the existing adventures that we've written for you just to get a feel of the game and a feel of how everything works. And so you can kind of gauge the levels of the characters versus the threat levels, so it's evenly balanced and it makes for a fun game. But after you've gotten the hang of it, go for it. We want you to do that. Oh, hi, Dustin, who's in here. Dustin is our game master for Day of Destiny, our actual play that is airing every Monday night. If you want to see Power Rangers, the Power Rangers role-playing game in action and you haven't caught it already, you can watch tonight. It is Monday, right? Yes, it is. You can watch tonight, and if you need to catch up really quick, you can watch all of the existing episodes on the Play Renegade YouTube and catch up on the story so you can see what's going on. Last week, left on a really cool part, and I can't wait to see what happens. So yeah, tune in for sure. Are there sample stats for the villains? Yes, there are. I just showed off a couple of them, but there is an entire chapter where we give example threats with full stat blocks so you can run them right out of the book. We also have a sample adventure which comes in the back of this book that is for Game Master eyes only to read through and lead you through your first adventure, and there are stat blocks of those specific threats that show up in there in the book as well. We also have a GM screen, a Game Master screen that is coming out that has gorgeous art on the front, and on the back some really cool quick tips, quick reference material for the Game Master to look at when they need to look at a rule really quickly. And that comes packaged with another adventure that they can run for you. So that's super fun with all new villains, and we call them threats in the Essence 20 system. Okay, what will you be doing showing from Renegade Space at Gamehole Con? Oh, well, at Gamehole Con, I will be actually running a couple of Power Rangers scenarios. I think they are sold out, but that does not mean that you can't get on a waiting list if you are going to that convention. So I will be running Power Rangers and G.I. Joe at Gamehole Con, and I will have, as long as Scott lets me, I have to clear this first. Maybe if I say it out loud, he'll have to let me. I will have a copy of the book on hand if people want to flip through it. So if you're at Gamehole Con, please track me down, say hello, and you can look through the book. And yeah, will there ever be miniatures made for this RPG? The answer is yes. We are actually going to be making some archetype miniatures, hero miniatures for the game that you will be able to paint however you want. So if you want to pick a specific kind of ranger look to start with specific weapons in their hands, you'll be able to then paint it with whatever ranger spectrum color from your role that you have chosen and customize it the way that you want to customize it so that you can play with it on the table if that's the way you choose to play. Some people just play theater of the mind and they don't use miniatures at all. Some people love to have things on the table. Some people like to play digitally on virtual tabletops like Roll20, and we have all of the material for that going up too, so you'll have little virtual miniatures on there. So we've provided for every type of gameplay. So that's that one. Okay. Yes, Dustin will also be at Gamehole Con, so you can track him down as well. And for a book in Roll20, I need 2 pays. Yes. So when you want the physical book is a different product than the Roll20 book. They're played in different ways, even though it's still a role-playing game, but they are 2 different books. So if you're going to be playing at the table, you're going to want the physical book. If you're playing on Roll20, everything in this physical book will be on Roll20, and you can flip through it digitally. You can also pass out different types of handouts and character sheets through Roll20 as well. I always like to have a physical book on hand. If you look behind me at all my books and stuff, I like to have everything anyway, but I do like to have a physical book on hand anyway, even if I am playing on Roll20. During the pandemic, I've been playing a lot on Roll20, and it's really, really cool, but I also just like to have a book on hand, but they are different. So you can choose which way you want to get the book. It looks like Trivia is in here answering a lot of cool Roll20 questions, and they are definitely the Roll20 expert. So if you have specific Roll20 questions, they will be able to really tell you every single detail. I harass them about Roll20 all the time. Okay. Sarah's approving me to bring the book to Gamehole Con. Awesome. Well, that's the decision then. I'm going. I'm bringing it. If it hasn't already been asked, will there be a white, silver, or gold rangers in the RPG this January? The option for a white advanced spectrum role is in this core rulebook. Silver and gold is coming in something soon, so you'll have to wait for that one, but white is available for you in this one. And boop, boop, boop. You're way ahead of me, everybody, answering questions before I get a chance to read them all. Thank you, chat, for helping out. Ask me anything about Roll20. Okay, so I think I got through all the questions unless anybody has anything else. So with about 10 minutes left, I'm going to start to show off something really cool, and then if more questions pop up, I will do my best to answer those as well. So I got this pre-production sample in the mail, and I was really, really excited. And then guess what happened a couple days later? I got another pre-production sample to approve. Let me hoist this thing up. This is the Deluxe 6-player set of books. It is heavy. It is awesome. And my camera sucks and is washing out these colors, and I'm kind of upset about it. But I'm going to pull one out. Pink, of course. Oh, yeah. If I hold it really close, the camera doesn't wash it out as much. But you can see that the books have this gorgeous gold foil treatment on them. They are the same inside, but just so you can see, whoop, our gorgeous book. And we have this awesome Deluxe 6-book set with linen covers, linen finish covers. They are super duper cool. I'm so excited about it. They are gorgeous. So this is perfect for the collector in you, or if you are running a game at the table and you want each of your players to have their own specific color book. Everybody will know whose book is whose, that's for sure. And I'm just going to pull them all out and show each one individually. But yeah, these colors are much more vibrant in person. My camera is terrible. My apologies. My skin isn't quite this glowing in real life either, even though maybe I wish it was. Okay, I don't want these to fall over. Blue Ranger. Ooh. And Red Ranger. I can pull these out backwards, but yeah. Oh, examples of the weapons. I got a question. I will turn to the weapons section and show you sneak peek. So the way the weapons work in the game is that you will, depending on what you choose in your character creation, you get basic weapon types. And then from that, you can choose what weapons you want. So here's our cool equipment section. And so your weapons will have different types of effects on them. And so they can look however you want, as long as when you've customized them, they're going to have the different types of effects. So you can have an armor piercing type weapon. You can have an area effect weapon. You can have a weapon that deals certain types of damage, whether it's energy damage, like a blaster would, or sharp damage, like an actual physical sword would. And so what you can do is you can customize your weapons in that way. Now, based on your character creation choices, you will have certain starting weapons that are like your standard weapon types, but they can really look however you want them to look. And that's part of that flexibility I was talking about earlier with character creation, and be able to have basically whatever you want. Now, if you want to upgrade your weapons with all of those cool things like, oh, I want a weapon that deals psychic damage and energy damage, and I also want it to have an EMP pulse, and I want it to have this and that, you can try to make that weapon, and there are rules for having those weapons made. And as you can see, there's like a little chart that tells you like what you can do and how hard it is to actually have it made. And so you'll have to like roll. So for example, if you want to have a weapon that is like a restricted weapon because you've been trying to like make this thing that doesn't really necessarily exist, you'll have to roll to make sure that you're able to, and that's going to depend on your skills and your level and whether or not you're able to actually get it. The cool thing that we have in Essence 20 is that there really isn't, aside from for role-playing reasons, there really isn't any money in this game. So you never see Power Rangers going off and going to help people and, rid Angel Grove or wherever they are of monsters so that they can then loot for gold so that they can then buy things. They generally get the things that they want from whoever their mentor is, whether it's Zordon and you're getting stuff from the command center, or whatever scenario you're playing in with other teams. And so you really can, requisition the types of weapons that you would need. So you're never in a space where you need to buy something and you don't have the money to buy it, because that's not realistic in this world. You're superheroes. You basically can get what you want if it's able to exist. And that's a lot of fun because you are motivated as characters to be heroes and not just people, looting dungeons like you would in other types of games. And so as far as your equipment is concerned, if it's reasonable, you should be able to get it. And if it's something that is, your characters are off to prom or something and you want to get, matching role spectrum color limousines or something. I don't know, I'm making this up off the top of your head, off the top of my head, and you need, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to rent those things. Yes, we have something that allows you to roll as a wealth check to see if you could afford it. But aside from that, what you need, you will have. It's just what type of weapon is going to be determined by the choices you make while you're making a character. So everything is really balanced once you get into combat when the threats appear. Boop, boop. Let's see, any other cool stuff? I talk a lot and all these questions are going by. How much of the comics are in the book? Oh, this has already sort of been talked about. Again, we don't really put the stories in here because the stories are for you to play through and for you to decide what happens. So we have story hooks. We have locations that appear both in the shows and the comics with characters that you might come across if you choose to go there. So if you never step foot, in a particular restaurant or in the Angel Grove University, if you never step foot in there, you're never going to come across those places. You may or may not be guided there by your game master, but you're not going to play through a story that you've already read because in a comic or seen on a show, because if you do that, you're going to know what to do. So everything is brand new with story hooks of familiar characters you may have come across before, familiar favorites from all of your favorite seasons will be appearing in all of our adventures, but a lot of it is brand new for you to explore as your own ranger team, whatever you choose to call it. And let's see. Will there be an unmorphed mechanic, such as losing powers from damage? Or being unable to morph. So yes, there are mechanics for you as your character in both unmorphed and morphed forms. That's all part of the gameplay of this system, and so you do have certain things that you can only do once you have morphed. I highly encourage you to watch Day of Destiny so you can see a lot of this in action, and once you get the book, you'll be able to see what the differences are, but there are certain things, especially your armor, helping you out, because when you're morphed, your toughness definitely goes up. But there are certain things that you can only do, certain types of jumps and acrobatics that you can only do when you are morphed versus being unmorphed. And whether or not you choose to play in a game where your identities are revealed or not is going to be up to you and your team at home. But I think it's really fun when you have to sneak off and morph secretly in order to get yourself into the fight that is you're being called into in creative ways. So that's very cool. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left. This went by fast. Do you use different sheets for civilian, ranger, and Zord? The sheet actually accommodates for all of the information that you need. So I'll flip back to the back so you can see again in case you missed it. But your sheet allows you to fill out all of your information, including all of your backstory, your weapons, and there is a Zord. There's a Zord form as well. And these sheets are going to be downloadable from our website if you need more of them, if you don't want to write your book or you don't have access to a photocopier. Do people even have photocopiers anymore? I don't know. But you'll be able to have form fillable sheets that you can use over and over again as you level up your character, although I do recommend using pencil when you're filling these out. But you'll always have sheets available to you for all of the different books, not just Power Rangers, but also G.I. Joe and Transformers too. What else? Yes, last question, we're going to talk about, Dean's asking, can you die in this game? What your game master chooses to do at your table is up to them, and I highly recommend that everybody does a session 0, which is talk about what you expect out of your game before you start playing. Is this going to be a super campy, bright colors, TV show style game? Is it going to be a little bit grittier like the comic books? What are the types of situations that you as a player would like to avoid, and you just want to let the rest of your group know that that is a line veil that you don't really want to cross? And do you want to have any type of character death at all? We've designed Essence 20 to not have character death. Instead, you're taken out of combat, you demorph, you're pulled out, and then there are definitely consequences to doing that. Your imaginations, I'm sure, can go wild with what can happen to you if suddenly you're knocked out and demorphed. Not only could your cover be blown, you could be kidnapped, you could be taken away by the threats. It might spur a new adventure where the rest of your team has to come rescue you. There are all sorts of different things that can happen that I think might be just as devastating as death. But it definitely is meant so that all of your hard work building up your character is not all lost, and you don't have to start over with your team. And it's much more true to how not only superheroes in general work, but the show itself and the brand itself. And it definitely encourages a lot of team play because you don't want to see your team members go down. Once a team member goes down, it's much more difficult for everybody else. But yes, Brian just answered it anyway. Yes, the status quo is to be defeated. Free RPG Day. Yes, thank you, Rick. So Free RPG Day is next weekend, and we do have a free adventure that will be in your local game stores. So please go down and grab a copy. I will say that this adventure was intended to come out after this book hit shelves, and we all thought that the book would be here by now. You can refer back to what I was talking about a little earlier about the shipping issues around the world. But make sure to pick up the copy of the adventure, because as soon as the book does come out, you'll be able to play through that. If you are playing only, I highly recommend you don't read the adventure, but hand it to whoever's going to be your game master so you're not spoiled as to what happens. But the coolest thing about this adventure is that it is written so you can play it as a Power Ranger, you can play it as a G.I. Joe, you can play it as a Transformers Autobot, for now, and you can or any combination of the three if you're all sitting down at a table together. So it can be played with any of the books and any character that you make, and it's super, super cool. So you can find that this coming weekend, so this Saturday, at your local game store for Free RPG Day. If your local game store isn't participating in Free RPG Day, bring it up to them and let them know that that's something that they can do every year, and they'll get a big box of stuff to give out to fans like you. Okay, I think that that's it. We're out of time. But if you have more questions, make sure to post here in the Facebook group. We will come in and answer everything that we can possibly answer, and we will definitely do another one of these as the book gets closer to release. And hopefully everybody had most of their questions answered. And if not, just ping one of us, tag us here on Facebook, and we will come in and answer your questions for you. And I guess that's it. So everybody have a great day. See you later. May the power protect you.